Hello, good morning, and welcome to News Express, exclusively brought to you by Business A.M, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. It is a new week, and we'll take a look at headlines on Business A.M for the week. Top on the front page, analysts see broad consumer price pressure after gas VAT. Bullet points there, analysts point to the attendant effect on consumers, economic benefits for producers. 5 kg of LPG now 2,600 naira. Okay, well, we're going to talk about this one, of course, with the publisher Business A.M. The following headline: high interest, port congestion, taxation, endangering Nigeria leather export. High interest, port congestion, taxation, endangering Nigeria leather export. The summary section on page 5, we have BDC's source affects creatively. Well, what does that mean? Finance and investment segment, we have on page 11, strong ROE for Dangote Cement, BOA and MTN. We have in the energy, power and renewable section, NNPC goes commercial on federal government. NNPC goes commercial on federal government. You can catch that one on page 26 of Business A.M. And I'll just rush through to the commodities and agri segment, where we have financing smallholder farming. Get more detail, page 24 of Business A.M. this morning. It's time to bring in the publisher Business A.M. to help us make sense of the headlines this morning. Good morning, Mr. Philip. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning, Rachel.
All right. So let's get right into the headlines. We'll start with the very first headline, talking about the broad consumer price pressure after the VAT reintroduction. Now, some analysts at United Capital, they said that the reintroduction of VAT on imported cooking gas is expected to further put pressure on a weak consumer base, as well as exacerbate inflationary pressures. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Rachel, what we are seeing here is that there was a whole lot of, let's call it some noise, around last week and maybe 2 weeks going now, regarding the VAT that was suddenly introduced on imported LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, into the country. If you ask some people, they will tell you, oh, we didn't realize we were importing LPG, but we have been importing LPG for some time. It's strange for a country that is still flaring gas, But now we have had some pressure on consumer prices across. You remember we've been looking at inflation numbers for quite a long time. And if each time we looked at inflation numbers when they are released, we talked about the what's it called? The food driven inflationary numbers, that there was pressure with regards to food prices, and that this was contributing a lot to the inflation numbers there, even though we saw inflation slowly coming down, but it's still inflation in any way. So analysts are now saying that what you are likely to see with the VAT that has been introduced into the LPG, imported LPG, since we aren't producing enough, there isn't enough investment going into LPG production domestically, and it's because you have a shortfall. That's why you are importing anyway. Yeah. So you have this VAT that has now been added, to LPG that are imported into the country, and then you have what you call this a pressure that's building up around foreign exchange. The foreign exchange market has been pressured for some time now. The naira has been losing strength against the dollar. And if you talk about importation, all these they all go into the pressure that analysts are talking about. So with VAT on LPG, it's going within the same brackets of consumer demand for consumers. This is a direct use by consumers. Then you are likely to have pressure built up around all the things that consumers are needing. Yes. So they say this will have that pressure, on the whole commodities chain. Food, there's high food prices on one side, and the other things that consumers are demanding, So if prices is high, the pressure is going to build up, You have this VAT added to LPG, it's going to result into a chain of other things, assuming LPG is used by not just the home, but you say in some places where you have some maybe restaurants that will use LPG, for instance, so definitely this is going to be passed on to people, either domestically when you use it at home, or the uses that LPG is used in kitchens, a different type of kitchens, where food is produced. So they said this consumers have been buffeted by a whole lot of price increases here and there, and this is coming to add to that, and so even if you look at the numbers that have come out from the National Bureau of Statistics, you see how in August alone, average price for refilling 5 kg increased by 3.52% month on month, and then 8.64% year on year, to 2,141.59, So you have this pressure, building up. Look at average price for 12.5 kg cylinder, rising by 3.11% month on month, and then 7.2% year on year. So it's a whole lot of things, price pressure, petroleum price increase, and across different the food basket for inflation measurement, there's a lot of pressure there. You go to the foreign exchange markets, for people who are looking for money looking for forex for what's it called, the naira is down on that basis. Inflation is still not abating as such, even though it is slowly coming down. But you see, so all of that is what the analysts are saying that this will result into, and it is something that it's worrying, for analysts who think that there's need to watch this,
Right.
There's need to watch this a lot.
Now let's talk about the one sector, the one area that isn't so much talked about, and that's the leather segment, business segment. You talked about it in your second headline on the cover page, talking about high interest, port congestion, taxation, endangering Nigerian leather export. And according to experts, Nigerian leather export business is in serious danger of running into a sudden halt following threats to the industry by a combination of high interest rates, congestion at ports, multiple taxation, and inconsistencies in implementation of policies that were designed to initially ramp up the country's leather exports. Question is, if the initial plan was to put all these policies in place to ramp up the country's export, how did it become a threat all of a sudden? What went wrong?
Yeah, I think, Rachel, like we always have talked about here, on this program, we've looked at different issues, and sometimes they boil down to what you call implementation. So if you go into government archives, if you want to bring out policy documents, you will find very beautiful policy documents, But each time you have looked at those policy documents, and then you match those policy documents with the how they are implemented, you find real shortfall in terms of policy implementation. That has been a major problem. And here, the people involved in this, not just so there are three particular chain of in this business we're talking about. So you have two particular chains, the people the tanners who produce the leather, and then the export people who produce who export this stuff out. So you have there's a program called EEG, I think, export guarantee, plan that government has in place. The implementation of this is being a challenge. Then you have one policy that when we spoke to people involved in this matter, there's a policy that allows them to borrow at single-digit interest rate, from what you call, they call it government-owned banks, So you talk about a Bank of Industry, you talk of Nigeria Exim, Import Exim Bank, Nexim, Export-Import Bank, So now there's funds available in those places, for them to have access to, But they told us, researching this story, they told us that even when you have gone to those people, those places, and you have secured some facilities from them, they still have to pass through commercial banks, and that's where you have some bottlenecks, that which boils down to the implementation. So you have a policy that guarantees single-digit interest rate, because commercial rates are in the double digits, As in some places we're talking about 25, we're talking about in some cases, depending on how strong you are in the market, you could be talking about a 30% interest rate for some commercial loans, So government looks at those things and so we are not able to influence the commercial banks in terms of how they determine their rates, but we can provide some funds for exporters or people involved in this trade, in this business to get access to. But then it has to go through the commercial banks, and then when it gets to that to commercial banks, there are conditions that are put in place that makes it uncomfortable for these people. We spoke to one seriously involved person in the business, and who said, "Oh, I have access to 2 billion naira facilities, but I have left. I'm not going to pursue that because I'm still having to face these bottlenecks, which does not really, even though it's available, I cannot easily access it. So these are the implementation bottlenecks that you have, And then they talk about the whole issue about port congestion. You have a situation where we're told that for you to pass through the port, to get your export out of the port, you can take your product to the port and it stays there for like 6 months, so you take 6 months to get it out of the country, when the money comes back, it takes you another 6 months to prepare to get back to the port, so that's a real serious impediment to our desire to have a diversified economy that allows forex to be earned from other sources. And we understand that Nigeria has great potential, apart from those who turn leather, some leather to formal, there's a research on that, you have great potential to earn foreign exchange from other areas, especially leather. Not confirmed, but say this leather export should earn Nigeria a good amount of money, if not a second highest forex earner, if well organized. So you have this problem. Then you have multiple taxation. People involved in the business told us that you not only have federal inland revenue people breathing down their throat. So you also have the state, you have the local government, wherever they are, and that causes a whole lot of issues. But there is a trade expert we spoke to, for this story, who also told us that while those issues are germane, regarding this matter, but there are other issues with regards to becoming very international in terms of what we send out of the country. And they say, oh, the sector is not. So he said the sector is not well organized, for good business to be done. It is scattered all over the place. Then and government isn't really doing what it should do, which is to create an enabling environment, be supportive, and not sometimes, take be at the forefront of these things, So key thing is government needs to put its act together, prepare itself adequately for wanting to generate export earnings from this foreign exchange from this business, by playing its role adequately in a way that allows for a smooth operation of our Nigerian leather export business.
Well said, Mr. Philip. I mean, the government has just one thing to do, and that's policy implementation. We have a lot of beautiful policies out there, but I think we just need to work on implementation. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip. We'll see how all of these stories develop in the course of the week. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rachel. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. And that was Philip Isakba. He's the publisher, Business A.M, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. Stay here.